Hello there and welcome to a News First exclusive with a very important individual here we have in our studios with today. Without further ado, let's get to knowing our guest for today, Mr. Sajeev Rajaputhra. He's an entrepreneur and the owner of the company SAS3, which is spelled SAS3. Hello, Rajiv, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
First, on the onset of the program, let me say
Yes.
that your company has a really creative name. Who came up with it?
I did.
You did?
I did. I was
You
a
take
huge.
the credit for all of it.
I do. Hey, you know, I was a huge Tupac fan back in the day, and that's kind of where I came up with the name. You know, SAS3, the
SAS3.
surname going into SAS3. Yeah.
Sajeev, the thing about your company, it's not just the name that's eye-catching and interesting. It's how you got there. You're a Sri Lankan.
Yes.
You worked in Japan.
Yes.
You live in Japan currently, and you own a vehicle exporting business.
Yes.
How did it all get there? Just to every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Sure.
Just to start off at the very beginning.
All right. My parents moved to Japan when I was a kid. I was about 7 years old, I think, when we moved there. So I've been living there since with my family, and I grew up mostly in Japan. I've been in the States, I've been in the UK and Singapore, different countries on education, but mostly in Japan. And my father started the company many years ago.
Right.
And so with his retirement, I took over at a certain point, whereas we were exporting, we're mainly the vehicle exporting industry. So my father was exporting, he was the largest exporter to Sri Lanka in his time. And since I've taken over, we've expanded globally. So we're in over 26 markets at the moment.
And how many offices have you set up in
We have
separate countries?
10 at the moment, yeah.
10 at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
business is going well, but just for the viewers out there to take a piece from your book, you are highly qualified in the educational aspect. You have 4 degrees with you, I believe?
Correct, yeah.
So in your life,
Yes.
how far have these degrees helped you, and how do you think that these degrees go along with the experience that you've gathered in this industry?
Well, education has a very important role. It's a very important role, because without it, what's going to happen is we're going to continue to reinvent the wheel, and we're going to continue to discover fire, right?
Right.
So education has a role in the extent that Isaac Newton said it had a role. If I saw beyond more than others, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
Right? So that's the role of education, I think. But beyond that, if you're trying to be a doctor, then education has a huge impact, because you need that technical knowledge, right? If you're going to be an accountant, if you're going to be a professional of any sort, then there's no other way but through study. If you're going to be a businessman, an entrepreneur, then you need to have something different. There needs to be an experience that comes with it. No amount of studying or learning can give you that, right? You could read all you want about riding a bicycle, but if you get on one,
You're going to fall.
you're going to fall a couple of
And
times,
you got to
right?
ride it to know how to ride it.
Correct. So
Same goes with swimming.
same goes with swimming. It's a little more dangerous because you probably
So
drown.
here in Sri Lanka, we have started focusing on enterprise development quite a lot, giving incentives to entrepreneurs. The government has themselves have initiated many programs such as Enterprise Sri Lanka that grants concessionary loans to develop startup businesses. You are a successful entrepreneur. What is your advice to all of those entrepreneur hopefuls out there?
Well, let me also put
It's
it
a
this
wide
way.
question, I
yeah,
know.
that is a
but-
wide question. So I'd give different advices depending on their ages. Let me start off there. Because if you're younger, the greatest asset that you have is time. And you can afford to fail a little harder than someone a little bit older, maybe.
Right.
So the type of risks that you take, you can go out and take more risks if you're younger. Right. And I would actually advise young entrepreneurs to do that. Risk-taking is a very key aspect of business. If you're not comfortable taking risks, you shouldn't be in business, right? Calculated risks.
Right.
Calculated risks, but you got to take risks. The most valuable currency that we have, that any of us have, is time.
Right.
And we're all spending time at the same rate. But the question is, what's your ROI on that? What's your return on your investment of time? And that's entirely dependent on where you invest your time.
And how you invest it.
Correct. Whether you're investing in education, whether you're investing in experimenting with things, learning about things, you know what I mean? Or whether you're just blowing it on Netflix, or you know, hanging out with friends. And so it depends. What you get out of it is what you put in. It's really that simple. So for young entrepreneurs out there, I think that's great. I think we need more entrepreneurs in this country.
Right.
Because business, small businesses, small to medium businesses are the backbone of any country. It really is, right? And the more we have that, the better, I think. So I encourage that, but going about it, I think there has to be a healthy take on taking risks and experimenting with stuff, learning stuff. You got to do stuff. You know, that's the whole thing. A lot of people are afraid of making decisions because they're afraid of making bad decisions. And there's an irony there, because how do you make good decisions? You need experience.
How do you get experience?
How do you get experience? Bad decisions.
Right.
Good decisions rarely make for good experience, right? They rarely make for good stories either. But bad decisions are the ones that give you good experience. So I would encourage people to go out and try this stuff. Don't be afraid. As long as your failure isn't going to kick you out of the game, it's okay.
Right. But we speak a lot about, you know, enterprise development, startup businesses.
Yep.
There is a bit of glamorization of entrepreneurship. Do you believe that's a good thing?
Glamorization of entrepreneurship. Are you talking about the entrepreneurship on Instagram with the Rolls Royce in the background and the private jet? That is not what I'm talking about when I say entrepreneur. I'm talking about 18-hour days.
Right.
All right? I'm talking about 7 days a week. I'm talking about rarely getting to see your kids because
the picture on the minds of people when you speak about an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship is, you know, big house, 5 to 6 cars, you know, luxurious lifestyle. A night in the Hamptons, maybe.
Right. All right. Yeah, that is so not what I'm talking about. Real entrepreneurship is very different.
Right.
And somebody in it for real will tell you that. It's hard work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment.
Right.
And forget about your personal life. The greatest challenge that we have is balancing that out, right, with your family life. And that's it's very difficult when your kids are growing up and you don't want to miss any of that stuff as well. I'm not saying make every recital, right? Not every piano recital, you don't need to be there for everything and every carnival, but you got to make that time for your family as well. That's really important. But when you're going into entrepreneurship, you got to go, forget this glamorous stuff. If you're going in for the glamour, you failed already.
Right.
It's over. Right? If you're getting there for the end result, forget about it.
You got to get in for the journey.
You got to love the process. And if you don't love the process of it, if you don't love the process of building stuff, motivating people, because I mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have people working for you. You got to keep them highly motivated. You got to talk to them. You got to connect with them on a deeper level. It's not just about here's your salary, do this work, right? If you want to build a great team, I mean, it takes certain leadership skills to do that. And if you don't enjoy that stuff,
you've lost.
Forget about it. As a result, you may get the big house and the nice car. But even as an entrepreneur, if I see somebody who's made a few $100 million and they're blowing it on a car or on a private jet or something like that, I question whether they're making the right decisions there either. You know, if you have the money, go for it. You know, I don't mind. But most entrepreneurs I know don't really need that stuff.
Right.
Because that's not what they're focused on. They may have a nice car, they may have but that's far less than they're worth. Because every last dollar they have is invested somewhere else.
Right.
That's what they do.
So it's a continuing process. It never ends.
Yeah. So it's a little different from what you see on Instagram and Facebook and social media nowadays. But that should never be the goal of why you're going into business.
Sajeev, would you call yourself a successful entrepreneur?
Would I call myself a successful entrepreneur? So far.
So
far.
Right.
And you know what? That's an interesting question. Let's say if any of my businesses failed tomorrow, does that make me a failure as an entrepreneur?
Does it?
No, I don't think so. Because being an entrepreneur, like I said, is not just about, hey, I built 5 successful businesses and this one flopped. And it's not just about the end result. Again, that's a process. If you're an entrepreneur, right? It's something that's in your DNA. It's not an end goal. It's not a result of something. It's who you are,
Right.
You might be a really good one, or you might be an okay one, but you're an entrepreneur. You know what I mean?
I understand.
If you're a Sri Lankan, you're a Sri Lankan. That's it, right? So it's something that comes...
It's a part of your identity.
It is. It is. It is. And that's something you can't teach.
Sajeev, we were speaking about leadership and how important it is for an entrepreneur to motivate their team, to build a good team. Here in Sri Lanka, current political sphere and all that, we have a lack of good leaders.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think leadership comes about? Is it education? Is it experience? Is it a bit of both? Is there something else?
I think well, it wouldn't be fair to take education or experience or any of it out of it, because those are all certainly huge parts of leadership. So you can't take that out. But I think true leadership comes from having a very clear vision of where your company, where your country, where your whatever needs to go, the direction of it. Right? You need to have a very clear vision of it. You need to be able to articulate that vision so you can get people to come with you on that journey.
Exactly. Convince them.
Convince them. And then you have to have the integrity to stick with that.
Well, Sajeev, you've developed a business that exported cars to one country, to over 20 countries.
Yeah.
You would have had a lot of experiences in between, you know, a lot of hiccups.
Yeah.
A lot of events that gave you the experience that you have now. Would you mind narrating a few of them?
Well, waking up one morning and finding out you lost $4 million. You know, these things happen, right? And that's
overnight.
Just overnight, right? There are times when we've had vehicles on the way here, and laws changed,
right?
And we've had to re-export them and bring them back to Japan, where the value had dropped to less than half because there's no more.
Vehicle values increasing, taxes being imposed on vehicles is nothing new here in Sri Lanka.
Sure, but it happens overnight sometimes as well.
Okay.
And you know, that causes problems. Other problems happen all the time. We had a typhoon that took away, damaged a lot of cars. The port flooded, and we had a lot of vehicles there, and they all jammed together. You know, things happen. So yeah, these things happen, and sometimes you can't predict it.
But here you are still smiling.
Yeah.
How did you get back up?
Well, I mean, it was a temporary setback. It wasn't big enough to take us out.
Right.
Not even close. But it's still significant, right? But it's not something I would consider failure or anything of that sort. Just you can't control some of these things, right? As far as hiccups, I think it would be more interesting anything on our side, like certain things that I actively did that didn't work out. I got tons of those too.
Right.
But it's a matter of doing so much, betting so much on yourself, that you have that 51-49 chance. It's still good enough. You still come out, the house wins, right?
Right.
As long as you have that, at least that 1%, you'll be okay.
Have there been days where you just woke up and thought, like, you know, enough is enough, I can't continue anymore? Have there been days? Never?
Never. Never. If I did, I'm in the wrong profession then.
You wouldn't be here?
I wouldn't be here. If I had to wake up one day and go, man, I can't do this anymore, then I got to seriously take a look at myself and go, am I happy where I am? Am I doing the right thing? Is this my calling? And if it's not, then maybe I need to figure out what that is. Because that's something else I'll tell you. People need to do what they love to do. People have to do what they love to do. It might not seem like such a great, glamorous thing, but you got to do what you love. And there's this saying, you know, it's a little cliche, but if you love what you do, you don't have to work a single day of your life.
Exactly.
But if you, it's true. It's
and
true.
I think you're a personification of a guy who does what he loves. Beside being an entrepreneur, you are also a singer, an actor.
Yes. Yes.
Does that add color and joy to your life?
It does, absolutely does. I love it. I love it.
That's the reason why you do it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's been great experiences. I don't have the time that I wish I had for that, but it's been great experiences. Yeah.
Would you consider a full-time career as a singer or an actor, if time permits?
Not lucrative enough.
Not lucrative enough.
Not here anyway.
I guess once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
But you know, it's being an entrepreneur that helps me do other stuff that I like as well. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, but that's the other thing. I love what I do as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. I love what I do as well, building businesses, motivating people, building teams. You know what I mean? Like this stuff, you have to work with people, and I love working with people.
Right.
You know? So that's great. And
so for you, being an entrepreneur, singing and acting, it's all the same thing. Being an entrepreneur is not your job, while singing and acting is something that you do for fun. All of it is what you enjoy doing.
It's all just life.
Right.
It's all life. You know what I mean? I grew up in a household where the first floor was the office, right? And so business and private, there are no lines. There are no distinctions between these two. Everything's merged together. And so is art, and so is love, and so is all this stuff. You know, I don't find, you know, I knew a guy who had to have 2 phones because he didn't want work calls on his
private number.
I can't wrap my head around a concept like that. You know what I mean? But people are different. And
Sajeev, you were speaking about leadership. You also spoke about education.
yes.
How much of a vital role do you think work ethic plays in being an entrepreneur?
If you're the boss, you better be the most hard-working person in the room. You got to be the hardest worker in that room.
You may not be the best, but you got to be the hardest worker.
True. Yeah. I mean, best is, you know,
Relative.
it's relative. Hard work doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything. And there's no excuse if you don't.
It costs you time.
Touche. It does. But what you get in return is experience.
Again, the initial argument
now
that you brought.
it's mutually exclusive, because the more time you have, the less experience you have. And the more experience you have, probably the less time you have, because it takes time to gain that experience, right? As far as going back to your question about
Work ethic.
work ethic, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, work ethic is just absolutely
Vital.
vital to the point I can't even explain. If you don't have that, I mean, forget about it. And it's not just with entrepreneurship. If you're an actor, or if you're a singer, or whatever you're doing, if you don't have proper work ethic, I mean...
And like you were saying, if it comes to working with people,
Yeah.
if you don't have work ethic, nobody will respect you.
And it's because you're not respecting them, right? If you're not
And not
showing up
having
on
a proper
time,
work
if you're not on your A game, if you're not doing that with your team, with your people, you're not respecting their time, right? And what they're putting in. So work ethic, absolutely very, very vital. What I would add to that is discipline. That's a very, very important thing, especially coming from a country like Japan, where discipline is almost military discipline, almost, in the sense that time is time. And if someone's supposed to show up at 9, they're there by 8:45, and they'll wait outside, and they'll knock on your door exactly at 9, right? It's a country like that. So coming from that kind of discipline, I see that lacking in a lot of other places I visit, a lot of countries that I go to. But see, here's the other thing. Japan is a country where trains work by the minute, by the second even. Buses work by the minute, you know what I mean? So it's easy for somebody to plan their journey from A to B to the last minute, right?
Right.
But isn't that all the more reason why in a country like, say, Sri Lanka or Pakistan or Kenya or Tanzania, wherever, where it's not so well organized, isn't that all the more reason why people should be more mindful about time management?
You actually led up to my next question, which was to ask you to compare how, you know, things function in Japan and in Sri Lanka. But all this discipline in Japan, does it necessarily mean that, you know, Japan is the working conditions there are ideal? Do you see that as ideal working conditions? Such high level of discipline?
Everything has
a flip side.
A flip side. So when you have that level of discipline,
what they lack is flexibility.
100%. It's a huge lack in that. Everything is very rigid. So that flexibility is lacking. As an employer, it makes my life very easy. It makes it easier than it does harder, right? because the easy thing is, I know if I'm away for a week or 2 weeks while I'm traveling to all our other offices, because Japan's on one corner. So when I start traveling this way, I have to cover everything and then go back, right? It doesn't make sense to go back and come back again. The only out of the way is Australia. Other than that, everything else is,
in one straight line.
Yeah, everything else is west. So while I'm there, while I'm gone, I know exactly what's happening. Every last thing, from attendance to everything, is online, and I get informed of it right then and there. There's nothing, no surprises when I go back, right? There are no disasters to fix if I'm not there. That's how well organized it is. So that part is great. But as when you want something to be a little more flexible, a little more, if you want to be able to bend it a little bit, that's really tough. That's really tough in that kind of discipline.
So for an entrepreneur here in Sri Lanka, what do you think one of the biggest things that they'll have to face, one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs here in Sri Lanka has?
One of the biggest challenges an entrepreneur, well, I think there's quite a number of them. I don't know if there's any one particular thing that's very big. I would think that, well, the cost of money here is very high.
Right.
That's a huge hurdle. What's the interest rate right now? 14%?
Somewhere close
Something
to
like that, 12 to 14. Japan is 1.5, 2, right?
Right.
So the cost of capital is very high here. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to get off the ground, and I'm talking about somebody who's really coming off the ground.
Building something from the ground up.
Yeah, right. That's a huge hurdle, right? On top of that, there's a number of other things I can tell you, whether it's, the rate of inflation or finding good people who can work with you. The other thing is, a lot of people who start off here, say in the vehicle trade, you'll notice that a lot of people in the trade are the owners.
Right.
The ones buying the cars, the ones selling the cars, they're the owners. And you wonder why they never expand beyond, there are some, but you don't see like a chain of car sales or things like that.
Just
here,
one place.
Right? Most of the time, it's one person, one place. And that's also partly to do with how the business functions, where...
Taking risks.
Not just taking risks, but where it's a business that's difficult to expand. You know what I mean? There's only so many things you can delegate to somebody else.
Right.
To do on the level that you would do it. And because of that, you get limited by your scope, what you're able to do as a single person. My father exported over, I don't know, 1,500 plus vehicles a month to Sri Lanka alone, right? He was the purchaser, he was the seller, he was the accountant, he was he was everything, right? We had close to 100 employees at the time in different auctions all over the country and stuff. Because at the time, we didn't have the online systems that you do now. People had to actually go to auctions. Right. So but they were just there to kind of support him. Without him,
nothing would have been possible.
Nothing would have been possible. So there's a lot of businesses I see where that happens, and that may be okay if what you're looking for is to have a better lifestyle and keep it at that. But if you're looking to expand, like
or to be an entrepreneur full-time, that's not a good way to go.
Well, the thing is, you got to go with that for the rest of your life. That's it. You can't stop. Exactly. You can't go into something else. You can't expand. So to do that, you need to find a business that you can scale. And I think that's a difficulty that a lot of entrepreneurs find in Sri Lanka as well.
Sajeev, we could continue to speak for quite a long time, yes. But as I told you before, we've only got just a limited time span. And as I promised you, I believe the time just flew by, right?
It did indeed. We were just getting into appetizers here, right?
Exactly. And thank you very much, Sajeev, for joining us on our show and giving a pointer to possible entrepreneurs here in Sri Lanka on how he himself built his business and how he became so successful. Hope you find these instructions useful, and hope that this your time that you spent watching this interview will serve you well in the future. Thank you very much, Sajeev, for joining us on our show. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in. Until next time, take care and God bless.